From lost archives of our founding, tall tales and myths of a time long forgotten, legends of automatons, prosperous civilizations, and bizarre calamities, battles between gods and tricksters beyond your understanding, the Merchants Land and Sea network of transmission brings you Cantankerous Contacts. Tonight's story, Small Bot, Large Underworld.
Alright, partner. Let's get a move on. Plastic contraption. Why's the only thing I can get is public access station? It's not even the good kind. This is some Tapiri Wub listing off dice types of monsters.
Time controlling lockout list. If you play that with questions of the island, you can infect the bot.
Not even the right game anymore. I want to hear show tunes. Heat bands probably messing with the radio signal. Microwaves messing with sound waves. Only in this neighborhood. Phooey. We'll just have to deal. How are you holding back there? You have enough leg room? I'll take that as a yes. Sorry about the seating arrangement. I wasn't planning on being company, so I didn't bring my carriage attachments. Throwing out one of my trunks was the best I could do, given the weather condition. You know I can't hear you properly, son. At least not right now. When we get to the next grub stop, I'll make some adjustments. Add a mic in there. For now, knock once for no, twice for yes, and different amounts for any answers that are not the prior to. Sound good? Alright, I'm glad we got that sorted. Well, since you won't be much of a talker for a hot minute, I'll just have to do the talking for both of us. Now, where do I leave off in my story? Oh, that's right. A band of rascals showed up unannounced. In a panic, I scuttled into the rafters of the warehouse. They stormed in a hurry, carrying large satchels, slammed the door behind them, fired the most low-down, grimy, sleazy, rotten. They were not well-mannered people just going off their appearances. Unkempt fur and feathers, weapons and holsters blatantly showing them off. Everyone had a duster of varying shades of brown. Smelled like cheap liquor and nicotine. Two of them with sandpaper cigarettes in hand. One had the thinnest snot mustache. Not sure they noticed all the home renovations were running in. I picked up who was the leader right off the bat, roughly after he started speaking. Smaller than the average Cholov, but that just means he was still as tall as a doorway. Dusted like the rest. Dirty red collar shirts and a pack of leaves stuffed into the pocket. No pants. Don't think any of them did, but that was just a fashion trend for Rogers back then. Fur unkempt, two long claws that needed to be clipped. Voice like gravel. Kept having to clear his throat with phlegm every 5 minutes. You ever hear that band Ninja Face? Something like the lead singer, but not as cool. He began silently screaming to his underlings to go into different directions. Each one hid behind one of the machines and waited. Slowly, I made my way through the ceiling. Did my best to stay as silent as a swamp snail. That's when the rumbling started. White solar flares burned through the crevices of the building, and echoes thundered through its halls.
How's that mean? We're having surrounded. Come on, pistol, leave you with only blood force trauma.
The leader slowly made his way to one of the crevices.
Now hold out there, Sheriff. We haven't even tried to make a deal. What happened to negotiating?
Negotiation ran out of the conversation when we was worth 50 million GPs.
We agreed I was to be compensated for dealing with the soldados del norte, you fools. You backed out first.
The People's Defense Force does not make deals with criminals. I know that I used to know his family and everything.
You really are two-timing bureaus, huh, Sheriff?
And if it's a starting problem, the insurance wants you alive, but it's not mandatory.
That sends butterflies through one of my stomachs. Send her my regards and apologies for denying her invitation.
He began to back away from the crevice while he was still saying this. I didn't even notice what the other four were up to.
Last warning, we are not afraid from demolition of the entire block.
Funny that? Neither am I.
The cowards were already halfway gone down to the basement when I noticed all the flashing red of the machines. I slapped down onto the shop floor to remove the charges, completely forsaking any stealth. I got to my first machine to start scrambling and to deactivate the bomb. But unfortunately, I had no knowledge of explosives. That's when I heard a cackle behind me.
Yeah, budget has really gotten down for you, huh, Sheriff? The robot couldn't even disarm a dud.
We locked eyes as he mobbed me. Out of all the flashing charges in that warehouse, my eyes was the one that saw the most red. They disappeared deeper into the factory. 5 seconds later, all I saw was white. My apologies. Memory gets a little hazy going that far back. Let me think. By the time my insides were powered back up, it was afternoon of the next day. I crawled out of the rubble to find nothing. It was all gone. My factory, my machines. Part of me was gone. The police had barricaded the entire block, and a little extra. Any investigation must have halted for the day. There were hardly any cops around. Just the ones keeping people away. Matter compressors still attached. Think Pomalis engineering. Probably the second reason I was still alive. The primary being hate. Made my way towards the basement stairs. Wasn't thinking rationally. Thought that I could chase them down. Not sure why. It was pointless. I lay there until nightfall, when most of the residents and cops would be less nosy. After some time, I made my way to that armored truck. Like a fungi to rotten flesh, I slowly rooted into the carcass of the armored vehicle, pulling apart little useful pieces to rebuild myself. First time I've done anything like that, really. Too angry to unpack it then. See, what it was, my creator, not my boss, gave my core a nifty little gift. Called it alloy symbiosis. Cheesy but simple. It's what helped me compress my old workspace, along with the actual word compressor. Yeah. Consider it a matter of it moves my cells around. Takes some time, but helps given what I use it for. Using what that truck had, I made myself a decently sized body. Nothing bigger than a trash can, but denser than a vault door. The Policia computer was partly intact. Screen shattered, but something still jiggling on the inside. The old jury rigging special let me recover some stored information on its hard drive. With a little I salvaged, I learned the names of the 5 scum that blew my dreams sky high. Vegas Harder, the Barkamotor with the crust stash, age 39, 5 feet 11 inches, dark green scales, 105 colonies, theft, vandalism, identity fraud. Additional notes included a butt strong enough to chomp off a pillar. Next there was a stocky avian fella, Pyroslavostasis, Simonis, a Kiko or a Sicko, born mute, age 45, 5'9", covered in light green feathers, and a bent beak, wanted in 2 large counties, kidnapping of a political figure, high treason and fraud. Additional notes state that he used to be a police officer back in his old town. Next was the twins, Luis Avelino and Avelino Luis, Lazaro. Bertho Kelson born, funny enough, grew up in the wealthier part of Bertho, ran away from home at the young age of 17. Kidnapped and sold for ransom, then ran away and joined the gang. Luis, the older one by half an hour, 4'3", and Avelino, the runt, 4'5". Both same age of 27, wanted in their home colony and 6 other neighboring ones. Gang affiliation, drug running, drug manufacturing, and public intoxication. Additional notes say that their parents are some high-profile individuals, but that part could not be retrieved. Likely changed the names to avoid embarrassment. And lastly, the Clown King himself, Rene Geraldo Porras, otherwise known as Crawlinger. The Chola hawk with the shroom cow pie color fur. Age 68, 9 feet 3 inches, wanted in 58 of the 60 colonies. Charged with everything from street gang to film industry tier crimes. Just a man to run this circus of animals. No additional notes. I had my list, and I had my rage. Now all I needed was to find them. I browsed around the truck to find anything else I could use. Found myself a nice boomstick. Bossman had a similar one, so I was somewhat familiar with how to use it. Saw it used firsthand on some government interns that went to collect taxes once. Surprisingly mostly intact. A couple of slugs inside. Molded it into my arm for easy deployment. Lost finger functions while using it, but I don't think that mattered. Ammo was something I couldn't replicate, so that was a bump in my plans I had to sort out. However, learning where the Bronze Hand Gang went was priority number one. They decided they were in some towns going north, straight to the Cantankerous Peninsula. It was a broad area to cover, but at least there was a lead. Next step was figuring out how to leave the city. Travel was very limited, and I didn't know how much of a distance they had on me already. Regardless, it was personal, so I began crawling back into the rubble. Terminal was hardwired into the city, not just the network, but also electricity. If I could just figure out how to trace where else the grid extended to, I could have something. The terminal itself was gone, obviously, but I dug around dirt to find the remains of the wiring. Luckily, crawling just blew a good chunk of the foundation, so the dirt was accessible. After an hour, I found a single wire. Wasn't even sure if it was part of the network, but it was something. Tore off one of my arm connectors and twisted it into the wire. It was very weak, but I could faintly feel where all the power came and went throughout the city. I focused on the 3 big signals heading outside city limits, northwest. Vague, but what else could I do? Before I could think of finding a means of transportation, police or crime scene dump trucks scooped me up. Begging not wanting to be a chooser, I saw this as a sign. Waited some time so the truck could make its way back to deliver the junk. Decided to give a small upgrade in the undercarriage in the meantime. Once we were out of view, I had the onboard GPS give the driver an early lunch break. Dropped him off at a nice cafe. That's a lie. I had no idea what a cafe was, so I left it in the first place I saw food. Might have been a gaffle helm. Anyway, took the truck to the city outskirts and made my way to the closest signal I felt, hoping to find a clue.
Well, I see a grub shop. We can grab a bite and I'll fix your carriage. We can also wait out the rest of the heat mist in there. Need to wet my whistle too. It's hard keeping you entertained, lad.